It was a 14-year struggle for better wages, better working conditions, and better schools. Beginning in the 1960s and lasting into the 1970s, teachers in 55 Connecticut communities went on strike. It was a last resort against boards of education that had exploited and disrespected them. Classroom teachers put their jobs and their professional reputations on the line.
I was very angry at the system, which to me had failed. I was angry at the people on the Board of Ed and the superintendent, who to me had failed.
It was scary. We were completely insecure.
They would browbeat you like you were lucky you had a job.
They keep on cutting away every year a little bit more and more.
This time, the frustration level was there.
We realized that as teachers, we had to make a stand.
Thousands of teachers took a stand. CEA members from 3 communities, Southington, Cromwell, and Bridgeport, are featured in this video. Bridgeport especially stands out for its chaos. The city's teachers were actually hauled off to jail like common criminals. This is the story of the fight for teachers' rights that changed the course of public education.
If you have something that is meaningful to you and to your families, you have to do that and let the consequences fall where they may. And teachers were advised that the consequences could be serious. We're subject to fines of $100 a day, potential incarceration, huge impact on our families and our personal lives. And teachers were willing to make that sacrifice to go forward with it.
They had the sheriffs out looking for us to give us subpoenas.
And that's when we found out that our subpoenas were coming and we could be jailed.
And there lying on the floor of the porch was the injunction papers.
They served us with papers for us to go to the judge and say we would refuse to go to work.
So we completely shut down our school system. The next week, a judge hauled all our leaders into court. And when our officers were taken into court, they were immediately threatened with being jailed.
We were served papers. We had to stand before a judge.
And they asked the executive board and the negotiating committee to say that they'll come back to work.
And we refused to go to work.
And the judge ordered them incarcerated right there, took them out in the handcuffs, let them out through the back door.
Took our purses, had a very strong woman strong-arm us, and put handcuffs on us, 1-to-1, in a long row. And then she grabbed the first person in the row and pulled at the first person in line, nearly causing, open wounds in some of the women by dragging them down the staircase.
And, obviously these teachers had never been exposed to anything like that. It was a rather traumatic experience.
And they took us for a bus ride to Niantic Maximum Security Prison for Women.
It came as a surprise that they ordered them to Niantic and Whaley Avenue Jail. So they took them all out in handcuffs.
So we were ushered into these buses.
The bus was led out of the building.
It comes up a ramp from the basement
onto Main Street, where there must have been
thousands of people standing around screaming.
Men, women, and children who were applauding, cheering us, supporting us.
And we really needed that support at the time.
They were behind us.
Because you think you're completely out there alone, and we did.
They agreed with what we were doing.
We didn't know what to expect next.
The women were processed in line with all the criminals that were coming in that day, murderers, robbers, what have you, and they were strip searched, deloused, etc., just like any other criminal.
Basically, they wanted to demoralize us, so there was a, definite sense of fear.
It was difficult. You were going away from from my wife and my children. I know it was very hard for them because they said, Dad's in jail. They were crying when they saw us.
They felt completely isolated when they were in jail. They had no idea whether their incarceration broke the strike. Did everybody cave in? Is it over because they took us away? It was a frightening experience.
And 24 hours later, they were able to get us moved to Camp Hartel.
And when they got to Camp Hartel, and there were these throngs of people there.
And we see banners and we see what looks like hundreds of people cheering at us.
Wow, people are standing behind us kind of thing, and it made a huge difference in their outlook.
This is okay, we're being supported, you know, it was just, it was incredible.
Ultimately, 274 of the Bridgeport teachers were held at Camp Hartel. It was a former prisoner of war camp. Teachers were held for nearly 2 weeks. The situation sent shockwaves across Connecticut and the nation. How could it be that teachers who had dedicated their lives to children were being treated this way? But jailed Bridgeport teachers were not the only ones who fought for teachers' rights. On picket line after picket line, in 55 communities, teachers endured harsh conditions.
We were emotionally hot. I mean, we were chanting, we had signs, but we were cold, we were hungry, we were tired.
Walking the picket line, getting drenched to the bone, going over a fellow teacher's house, taking a shower, him giving me some clothes to wear, and back out on the line.
One individual put the windows down on the bus and yell out, "I'm gonna have your job." We yelled back that those were our jobs, not that person's.
Ann Coy was a business teacher, and she had had 2 knee operations. And she was walking around in crutches, and she was walking the line. And she went out there every day to walk the line.
You know that that's not where you want to be. You want to be in the classroom. You want to be with your students. You want to be able to work with them and teach them.
I absolutely love teaching. I love it to this day. I love going in and teaching my kids. And I was heartbroken during the strike. I remember going to the picket line at the school I teach at and seeing the buses come in, and we're out there picketing. And I have to tell you, I had tears in my eyes because I wanted to be in there teaching them.
We were out there for the betterment of our profession, and we were there because we felt this was necessary to get our point across.
Teachers wanted a new, equal voice when negotiating contracts with school boards. They believed good working conditions for teachers meant good learning conditions for children.
The parents supported what we were striking for. They supported us. There was no animosity from parents afterwards either.
What we were doing was really not only just beneficial to the teachers, but it was for the student, the school system.
They did bus the kids into school. And one thing I recall very clearly, even to this day, at Southington High School, they locked the kids in the gym. They didn't have people to cover the classes. They took en masse, whoever showed up, they locked them in the gym. And when you think back now, what could have happened? What could have happened? They were locked in, they couldn't get out.
They thought we went on strike because we didn't care about them. And I tried to convince it was the opposite, you know. Well, you didn't come to school, you obviously didn't want to come, you know, you don't want to be here. I said, I wanted to be here in the worst way. So I had tears in my eyes when I couldn't be here. But I did this, and it's the reason I supported it, because I do believe in what we do. I want to see the best teacher in front of you all the time. And you're not going to get the best teacher in front of you all the time if you pay them a lousy salary, if you don't give them some time to plan, if you don't give them, you know, resources and stuff, materials to work with. You're not going to get the best teacher, and that's why we did it.
Public support grew, and legislators could no longer ignore the situation. The state legislature adopted the binding arbitration law. The association emerged a powerful and persuasive voice for public education.
I think we forget how just not that many years ago, things were so different. And the young people need to hear the stories.
Forget history and you're doomed to repeat it. So they've got to value what they have today and understand what it took to get there, the blood, the sweat that had to be given by somebody.
I think a lot of younger ones take for granted that we have binding arbitration, that we have a decent contract, that we have insurance benefits, that we have, you know, class size, and we have all that stuff.
This is something that the unions have fought for over the years. And I don't know how much the teachers today understand that.
They don't realize there was a time when a Board of Ed could say no to anything they wanted to and do anything they wanted to us.
Without negotiations, collective begging. That's what we would go back to. And I don't ever want to see that.
If we hadn't done that, who knows where we would be today? You know, you still would be fighting, and we are, but things would be far worse than what they are.
For teachers today, it's like, you better be organized, you have to be in a group, and that's what gives you your strength. The larger the group you belong to, the more respect you get.
Life without the union would be very difficult. Your job would change tremendously.
I think the accumulated work together of a lot of teachers is what led to binding arbitration. Its job is to get us the best working conditions we can have so we can teach the kids the best way.
The binding arbitration law provides a fair process that resolves disputes. It ensures that teacher contracts are negotiated in a timely and decisive way. It took teacher strikes to bring about the law. Since adoption of the binding arbitration law, not one school day has been lost because of a dispute between school boards and teachers.